Welcome to level 4. Using the least squares method, plot and find the equation of the line of best fit and the value of the linear correlation coefficient R given points A to G. Let's quickly have a look at the least squares method. First, I want to talk about summation notation. It's this thing. This is the Greek letter sigma, and it looks like a big E. And what it means is add things together. If X is this set, like 5, 7, 10, 15, 19, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 23, 23, 23, 24, 24, 24, 24, 25. There are 19 values in there. If we were doing the mean, you just add them up, divide by 19, right? But if we were to write this using summation notation, we would say that the mean is the sum of X, like add up all the X's and multiply by 1 over n. So 1 over n times the sum of X. We would get a mean of 19.89473, 684, and it goes on. Now that we know what that means, let's have a look at the least squares method. A, our slope, is n times the sum of all the x times y's. You're going to take the x's multiplied by the y's and add them all up. Then you're going to subtract from that the sum of all the x's times the sum of all the y's. Divide that by the n times the sum of all the x's squared. Take away the sum of all the x's and then square that. This is x is squared, like each x multiplies each x, and then you're adding those all together to get the sum of x squared. And here, you're doing the square of the sum of x's. That'll give us the A. The B, you can take the average of the y's and the average of the x's. B is y minus ax. It's also B is equal to the average of the y's, take away A times the average of the x's. Remember, the average of the y's is the sum of all the y's divided by n. The average of all the x's is the sum of the x's divided by n. We're dividing by n in both cases. The n becomes a common denominator. We can say that B is the sum of the y's, take away A times the sum of the x's divided by n. That's our formula in order to get the A and B. To get the R, the correlation coefficient, we have this nasty formula. The same top that we had up here, the same bottom here with the x's, then pretty much the same bottom but with the y's. It's n times the sum of the y squareds, take away the sum of the y's, all squared. We multiply the two bottoms and we take the square root, and that'll give us the correlation coefficient. Well, let's go and do that. I need the x's times the y's. I'm going to do the 3 times the 3 and fill that down. Then I want to get the x's squared. I'm going to take the x, I'm going to square that and fill that down. Then I'm going to do the same with the y's and fill that down. And you can test 4 times 4 is 16, that makes sense. 10 times 5 is 50, 5 squared is 25, 10 squared is 100, so that all works. Now I need the sum of all of these is equal to the sum of all of these things, and then I'm going to fill that across. So it's going to do all my sums. How many points do I have? This 84 is not one of the points, but the 21 is. And it has a little 8 beside it, so that means it's our 7th because we're starting at 2. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 points. I'm just going to write that here just so I don't have to keep counting. N is 7. The top, the bottom, I have 2 bottoms, the A and the B and the R. The top is the sum of the xy's, okay, the sum of all these guys. N, the 7, is equal to 7 times the sum of the xy's, take away the sum of the x's times the sum of the y's. That gives us negative 413. The bottom is 7 times n times the sum of the x squareds, take away the sum of the x's, all squared. Then the other bottom, I'm just going to fill that right, and that's going to be doing 7 times the sum of the y squareds, take away the sum of the y's, all squared. The A is the top divided by the bottom 1. Is negative 0.25, which is negative 1 over 4 if we're doing it as a fraction. The B is the sum of the y's minus the A times the sum of the x's, all divided by n, which is 7, and that gives us 7. Our equation is y is equal to negative 1/4. You can write negative 0.25 x plus 7, and I need to graph that. I'm going to go to the 7, negative 1/4. I'm going to move over 4 and down 1. This is the line of best fit. That's my equation. The R we have to calculate, which is the top divided by the square root of the bottom number 1 times the bottom number 2. That gives us negative 0.532591. The R is equal to this. I'm going to round that to, I'm going to have the 1 till the 9 to stay at 9. The intensity, that is weak. That's my answer. I'm going to press answer to see if it's right. That's it for level 4. Have a good day.